Welcome back to the Fencing Family Podcast for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at something I know resonates with all of us.
Mm,
And it's how, facing our fears on the pist
absolutely.
can actually help us be more courageous and confident in our everyday lives.
Mm,
And of course,
yeah.
big shout out to the Fencing Family Shop on Etsy for making this deep dive possible.
Yes.
You got those days when you want to rep your fencing pride
Yeah.
when you're off the strip?
Yeah.
They got you covered with some seriously comfy and stylish gear. So check them out at fencingfamily.etsy.com. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. It's interesting how the mental game in fencing mirrors so many real life situations.
Yeah.
It's not just about physical reflexes.
Yeah.
It's about strategy and quick thinking and handling pressure and all these
Right.
things.
Like you're literally facing an opponent,
Yeah.
weapon in hand.
Yeah.
There's no room for second guessing or hesitation.
No, and that's a crucial lesson. Fencing teaches you to trust your instincts and commit to your actions. It forces you to confront that fight or flight response head on,
Yeah.
but in a controlled environment.
So it's like a training ground for building the courage to act decisively, even when you're feeling uncertain or afraid.
Precisely, think about it every time you step onto that pist. You're stepping outside your comfort zone. You're facing the possibility of defeat,
Yeah.
of getting touched, of making a mistake.
And yet we keep coming back for more.
Exactly.
There's something about that challenge that's actually empowering.
Absolutely. Because each bout, win or lose, is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Right.
You build resilience by picking yourself up after a setback,
Right.
analyzing what happened and figuring out how to improve.
And that get back up mentality translates to so many areas of life, right?
Let it.
It's like fencing teaches you that failure isn't the end of the world.
Exactly.
It's just feedback.
It's about shifting your perspective from fearing failure to seeing it as an essential part of the learning process. And that's a powerful shift that can impact everything from how you approach your career to how you handle personal challenges.
Okay, but let's be real. There's a ton of pressure in those high-stakes bouts.
Oh, yeah.
All eyes are on you, the score's tied,
Yeah.
and every move matters.
Yeah.
How does fencing help us manage those nerves?
It cultivates an incredible level of mental toughness and composure.
Mm-hmm.
You're training your mind to stay focused under pressure, to block out distractions,
Right?
and to make clear decisions even when the adrenaline's pumping.
It's like everything else fades away, and it's just you, your opponent, and that next touch.
Exactly. And that ability to stay calm and think strategically in a pressure cooker,
Yeah.
that's a superpower, not just in fencing, but in life.
Think about it. Presentations at work, tough conversations, even just navigating a really stressful day.
Yeah.
Suddenly those things don't seem so daunting after you face down an opponent on the pist.
It's like fencing gives you this mental toolkit for handling pressure and making clear-headed decisions, regardless of the situation.
And I think that ties into another key aspect of fencing, strategy.
Yes.
It's not just about flailing around with a sword.
No.
There's so much planning analysis and adaptation involved.
Right. It's a constant mental chess match. You're trying to anticipate your opponent's moves, figure out their weaknesses, and exploit any openings.
But it's not just about sticking to a rigid plan, is it?
No.
Because things can change in a split second on the pist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt on the fly, adjust your strategy based on what your opponent is doing.
Yeah.
It's about being flexible, thinking creatively, and finding solutions to unexpected problems.
So it's like you're training your brain to be agile and resourceful,
Yeah.
which are definitely skills that come in handy in all sorts of situations.
Absolutely. Think about a challenging work project, for example.
Yeah.
You might have a plan going in.
Right.
But inevitably, there will be roadblocks, unexpected changes,
Yeah.
or new information that forces you to pivot.
And fencing helps you develop that mental agility to problem solve
Yes.
and adjust your approach on the fly without panicking or getting overwhelmed.
Precisely. You're basically training yourself to be comfortable with uncertainty and to embrace the unexpected as a challenge rather than a threat.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
The idea of performance anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of people struggle with public speaking or being in the spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
but fencing kind of throws you right into that arena, right?
It does. You're literally on a platform with people watching your every move.
Yeah.
You're being judged, scored, and sometimes even cheered for or against.
Talk about a high-pressure situation.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that actually help you overcome performance anxiety in the long run?
Exactly. Because you're facing that fear head on again and again in a structured and supportive environment.
Right.
it desensitizes you to the feeling of being watched and judged.
So by the time you have to give a presentation at work or even just raise your hand in class,
Right.
it doesn't feel nearly as terrifying. You've been there, done that in a much more intense setting.
It's like fencing inoculates you against that fear of being in the spotlight.
Yeah,
And that can be incredibly liberating, wouldn't you say?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It frees you up to focus on the task at hand, to express yourself confidently,
Yeah.
and to just be present in the moment without getting caught up in all that self-doubt.
And speaking of stepping outside your comfort zone,
Yeah.
let's talk about calculated risk-taking.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Tell me more.
So in fencing, you're constantly making decisions about when to attack, when to defend, when to go for a risky maneuver.
Right.
You're weighing the potential rewards against the potential risks.
And all of that is happening in a split second
Yeah.
with your opponent coming at you.
Right. But it's not about recklessness.
Right.
It's about calculated risk-taking. It's
Okay.
about assessing the situation, trusting your instincts,
Mhm.
and being willing to go for it, even if there's a chance it might not work out. So you're essentially training yourself to be comfortable with uncertainty,
Exactly.
to make decisions even when you don't have all the information.
Precisely. And that comfort with uncertainty is a valuable skill in life, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
It allows you to take chances, to pursue opportunities, and to embrace new experiences,
Yeah.
even when there's a possibility of failure.
Because you know that even if you don't succeed, you'll learn something from the experience.
Exactly.
And that's something fencing reinforces over and over again.
It's about shifting your mindset from fearing failure to embracing it as a stepping stone to growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a powerful shift that can have a ripple effect throughout your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how fencing instills this mindset.
Mm.
You know, another area where this translates beautifully is in emotional regulation.
Oh, tell me about it.
Mhm.
I think we've all had those moments on the piste where, frustration or even anger bubbles up,
Yeah.
especially after a tough loss or a questionable call.
It's natural to feel those emotions.
Oh.
But fencing teaches you to acknowledge them
Right.
without letting them control your actions. You learn to channel that energy into focus and determination.
It's like instead of getting flustered and making impulsive moves,
Right.
you take a breath, refocus,
Yeah.
and come back stronger.
Exactly. And that's such a valuable skill to have off the piste, too.
Yeah.
Think about it. How many times have you reacted impulsively in a stressful situation only to regret it later?
More times than I'd like to admit.
Right.
But fencing helps you develop that pause button, that ability to take a step back, assess your emotions,
Yeah.
and then choose a more constructive response.
It's like you're training your emotional intelligence muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And the stronger those muscles get,
Yeah.
the better equipped you are to handle life's inevitable curveballs with grace and composure.
So it's not about suppressing emotions. It's about becoming more aware of them
Right.
and learning to use them to your advantage.
Precisely. And that ties into another crucial aspect of fencing preparation.
Oh, absolutely. Preparation is everything in this sport.
Yeah.
You've got to practice your footwork, refine your technique, study your opponent, and even visualize different scenarios.
And the more prepared you are,
Yeah.
the less room there is for fear and self-doubt to creep in.
Right.
Because you know you've done everything you can to be ready for whatever comes your way.
It's like that feeling of walking into an exam, knowing you've studied thoroughly.
Yeah.
You're still going to feel some nerves,
Right.
but there's this underlying confidence that comes from being prepared.
Exactly. And that sense of control, that feeling of agency
Yeah.
is incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
It allows you to approach challenges with a clear head and a sense of purpose rather than getting bogged down by what-if scenarios.
It's like preparation is a shield against those anxieties that can paralyze us. And fencing instills that importance of preparation in a way that extends far beyond the piste.
You know, it's interesting how all these skills we've been discussing, mental toughness, emotional regulation, calculated risk-taking preparation, they all point back to this idea of staying present, of being fully engaged in the moment.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You can't be dwelling on a past mistake or worrying about what your opponent might do next.
Right.
You have to be completely focused on what's happening right now.
Because in fencing, hesitation can cost you the touch.
Right.
And
Yeah.
in life, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future can rob you of the joy and the power of the present moment.
So it's like fencing trains you to be mindful,
Exactly.
to cultivate that awareness of the here and now.
Yes.
And that's a skill that can benefit every aspect of your life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Mindfulness helps you savor the good moments, navigate the challenging ones with more clarity,
Yeah.
and make conscious choices rather than reacting impulsively.
And I think that's where the beauty of the fencing community comes in.
Yes.
You're not on this journey alone.
Yeah.
We've got coaches, teammates,
Mhm.
and fellow fencers who are all going through those same challenges and triumphs.
That sense of camaraderie is invaluable. You have a built-in support system. People who understand the unique pressures of the sport,
Right.
who can offer advice, encouragement,
Yeah.
and a listening ear.
It's like having a whole team of cheerleaders and mentors,
Yeah.
pushing you to be your best, celebrating your wins and helping you learn from your losses.
And that sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than yourself, can be incredibly motivating and empowering.
Right.
It helps you realize that you're not alone in facing those fears and overcoming those challenges.
It's like having a whole family,
Yes.
both on and off the pist,
Exactly.
who are rooting for you every step of the way.
You know, one of the things that always strikes me about fencing is how it teaches you to embrace the present moment.
Absolutely. There's simply no room for distractions when you're facing an opponent who's trying to score a touch on you.
Exactly. You have to be completely absorbed in the here and now.
Right.
It's almost like a form of moving meditation, wouldn't you say?
It really is.
Yeah.
You're so focused on your opponent's every move, your own body, the rhythm of the bout, that everything else just fades away.
And in those moments of pure focus,
Yeah?
there's no space for fear, self-doubt, or those nagging anxieties that can hold us back in life.
It's just pure focused action.
Yeah,
It's exhilarating, isn't it?
it truly is. It's that pursuit of mastery, not just of the physical techniques, but of the mental and emotional ones as well, that keeps people coming back to fencing.
I completely agree. It's this constant journey of self-discovery, of pushing your boundaries, and realizing that you're capable of so much more than you initially thought.
And that journey is never truly over, is it?
No.
There's always a new challenge to face, a new skill, to master a new level of growth to strive for.
And that's what makes it so exciting. Fencing is never boring because you're constantly evolving both as an athlete and as a person.
It's about embracing those challenges and pushing ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Fencing really is more than just a sport. It's a journey of self-discovery and personal growth.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I want to shift gears a bit and ask you something. We've talked a lot about how fencing helps us manage fear on the pist.
Mm-hmm.
But what about in everyday life?
Yeah.
How can we consciously take those lessons we've learned in fencing and apply them to challenges outside the club?
That's a fantastic question, and something I encourage all of you listening to think about. What are those fears you face off the pist?
Yeah.
Maybe it's public speaking, asking for a promotion, or even just starting a new hobby.
Right.
Whatever it is, how can you approach it with the same courage, strategy, and mental toughness you bring to fencing?
I love that. So
Yeah.
it's about recognizing those moments where fear might be holding us back
Yeah,
and then thinking, okay, how would I handle this if it were a fencing bout?
exactly.
Yeah.
Could you break down that fear into smaller, more manageable steps?
Right.
Just like you would break down a complex fencing move? Could you visualize yourself succeeding, just like you might visualize that winning touch?
And even if things don't go exactly as planned, because let's face it,
Yeah,
that happens in life just as much as it does in fencing.
absolutely.
Could you view those setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth rather than as failures?
Precisely. It's about adopting that fencer's mindset of resilience, adaptability, and continuous improvement.
Right.
It's about remembering that fear doesn't have to control us.
Yeah.
We can acknowledge it, respect it, and then choose to move forward anyway.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this fencing family. Head over to our social media pages and share your own experiences with facing and overcoming fear, both on and off the pist. What strategies have you learned from fencing that you've applied to other areas of your life?
And if you're new to fencing and all this talk about fear and growth has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to find a local club and give it a try.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at what you discover about yourself when you step onto that pist and face your fears head on.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into fencing and fear. Until next time, keep those blades sharp
Yeah.
and those minds even sharper.
And remember, fencing family, you're stronger than you think.
We'll see you on the pist.